How do you usually refuel? With a helmet on, without one, or perhaps using a flip-up helmet? In Greece, this particular question might become very important indeed in the near future. The government is planning to introduce a law that would refuse fuel access to bikers who are not wearing helmets. So, if you're not wearing a helmet, you're not going to get any fuel there. However, can such a ban genuinely save lives, or does it merely cause chaos at the gas stations instead?
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
And with that, welcome to the Motorcycles News. The background is an alarming accident statistic. Almost 40% of traffic fatalities in Greece are motorcyclists, and many of them were not wearing helmets. The government sees a need for action here. However, the planned regulation raises many questions. What is the whole thing supposed to look like? How is it supposed to be controlled? Who bears the responsibility, and what does that mean for tourists on rental scooters, for example? Let's take a closer look at the whole situation.
The initial situation. Why the law?
Greece plans to implement a rule to stop selling fuel to motorcyclists who aren't wearing helmets. The background, as mentioned, is the high accident numbers. In total, 38% of all traffic fatalities are indeed related to two-wheeler riders. Particularly problematic, 7 out of 10 fatal accidents involved individuals not wearing a helmet. So, a large portion of these fatal accidents could have at least been mitigated by wearing a helmet. Only 80% of bikers in Greece wear helmets at all. It might sound like a lot at first, but the EU average is 97%. And particularly young drivers, aged between 18 and 24 years, are at risk here, because they are the ones who apparently aren't keen on wearing a helmet. A study conducted by the Technical University of Athens reveals that motorcyclists in the age group of 18 to 24 face a 10 times higher risk of dying in an accident than car drivers of the same age range. Nonetheless, when riding a motorcycle, it's important to take advantage of the opportunities you have, particularly when they're mandated by law. In any case, an extraordinary idea suddenly came up.
The idea. No petrol for helmet refusers.
A gas station owner in Crete came up with the idea. He refused to fuel bikers who weren't wearing helmets, but he wasn't doing it specifically to bring about this new law. The reason behind it was much simpler. There had been an unfortunate accidental death of a 17-year-old teenager in his neighborhood. For this reason, he refused service to people without helmets, motorcyclists, scooter riders, etc., to be sold without a helmet. The health minister and the development minister then took up the issue, and the proposed legislation is now supposed to be thoroughly debated in Parliament, which means it could potentially soon be passed and implemented. It affects two-wheelers like motorcycles, scooters and mopeds, but excludes electric scooters. But of course the law doesn't only have supporters. Gas station operators in particular criticize the law, because they say, why should they be responsible for the helmet requirement now? How are they even supposed to monitor these violations? Are there penalties for operators if they don't comply and dispense fuel even though the driver isn't wearing a helmet and so on? These are all open questions that have not yet been resolved and are also difficult to clarify. In some other countries, for instance, it is likewise the case that one cannot walk into the sales area of a gas station with a helmet on, as this could potentially raise suspicions of a possible robbery happening. That's why numerous gas stations display signs indicating that the removal of helmets is mandatory. Otherwise, you might not get any fuel if needed. Many countries also have an issue with robberies, where the perpetrators escape on motorcycles, for example. And this whole thing is conflicting, which is why its implementation is controversial and difficult. These aren't the only ideas on the table. There are also additional plans, such as implementing a 30 km/h speed limit in many towns. The background here is, of course, that 50% of fatal accidents occur in urban areas. That's the official statement. That's why they might want to implement it if necessary.
Conclusion. Does the law really help?
The government hopes for fewer fatal accidents and wants to support that, or rather needs to ensure it somehow. However, managing the entire situation might turn out to be extremely difficult, particularly given that the police at present aren't really enforcing the existing helmet requirement or imposing fines for it as they ought to be. Maybe we should start here first, before shifting the responsibility of surveillance to gas station owners. And naturally, this is relevant to tourists as well, because even when in a foreign land, one has to abide by and respect the laws that are in effect there. Tourists who are caught not wearing a helmet will similarly face respective penalties, or might not be able to purchase fuel in the future should this new law be brought into actual enforcement. A helmet is mandatory for motorcycling in Greece, as in many other countries. Not only for safety reasons, but also, if necessary, to be able to refuel. What do you think? Is such a regulation sensible, or is it going a bit too far?